Striking.
All right, welcome to a special episode of Loosely Related Podcast. I don't know if we're going to call it episode 23.
Right, we had this problem last time, right? Because we were trying to figure out, like, if we were going to name the guest episode.
Yeah, because this is an extra one, sort of. But this is a very special.
22A.
22A.
There you go.
We were going to put letters into things, so yeah, we should do that. But
Exactly.
very special episode. I have a very special guest today on our show. He's an executive producer and founder of Avant Garde Entertainment, Nestor Rodriguez.
Woo!
Yeah, welcome to the show, Nestor.
Yeah.
So, Nestor has over 21 years' experience in the broadcast industry. He's helped produce such commercials as Nike, Reeboks, Coca-Cola, Chrysler, McDonald's, AT&T, Anheuser-Busch, Heineken, and so much more. He's actually worked with celebrities such as Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks and others. R. Kelly, Backstreet Boys, Buddy Guy. He's supervised and helped in the post-production of films such as For Little Girls with Spike Lee, Spike Lee film.
Wow.
Welcome to the Dollhouse, 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Oz, 60 Minutes, and Saturday Night Live skits. So
Nice. That's awesome.
we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, I'm
So
looking
much.
forward to sharing.
And the cool thing too is that we have our producer. We have all 4 of us. So you notice
Yep,
on the
yep.
show. So we always talk
Got the
about
all in the
what's
family.
different about the set today. Well, today is pretty cool because we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I count to 5. Right? Can I
Yeah.
5
you
and
can do it.
2
Five.
I made
cameras.
it to 5
5 and 2 cameras.
because I'm still studying. I think I'm up to 32 now in number of counting. So
You're doing good.
yeah, so we're doing all right. So Nestor, man, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much, guys.
So-
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
glad, man.
We're really happy to have you here, man. So tell me how you got into this, man. How did you get started?
That's a great
Tell me-
question.
yeah.
All right, so I'll just go a little bit. I'll backtrack where I came from, right? And not from Mars, but
Oh, I thought it was
yeah,
Mars.
I know.
I thought it was.
We should keep the
So
episode right
I
there.
grew up in Harlem, on 149th and Broadway.
Okay.
And at that time, it was quite horrific at that time where I was growing up. There was drugs and hookers and drug dealers and gangs and a variety of things of where
Must
I
have
grew
been
up.
rough.
Yeah, it was
growing up in that kind of environment.
But Harlem, it started in the 19th century. It had Jewish and Italian, and then in the 1920s there was a Harlem Renaissance. It was where I grew up is Sugar Hill.
Okay.
And so there was an emergence of African Americans coming up there.
What year was it?
The 1920s was when it kind of it was like re-emergence. It was called the Harlem Renaissance.
Right. Okay.
And
Yeah,
so with
poetry
that,
and
yeah,
all that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, and
Yeah,
and
sure.
jazz and that whole thing with
Sure.
Duke Ellington and
Right.
Cap
All the
Calloway.
cultural,
absolutely
explosion or whatever,
explosion,
yeah.
right? Exactly. And so, so it was beautiful, and they had these wonderful row houses and everything. And
Sure.
but then in the 70s, I believe 60s and 70s, it started going downhill.
Okay.
And that's when drugs started coming into the you had guys like what's his they did the movie American Gangster about him.
Oh, yeah.
Frank
Frank,
right. Frank
Look that
Nitti.
up.
Not Frank Nitti. I'm sorry.
my
Guys.
We have
come
a
on.
fact checker. We have all these
We have a
laptops
fact
Good.
here.
but
We have all
yes.
Anyway,
these-
so you had
Frank Lucas.
Frank Lucas, right?
There you go.
And
That's our
those
fact
guys,
checker.
Thank you.
and now they have another one, the King of Harlem, which is his buddy.
yes.
Okay, with Frank Forrest Whitaker and that. These guys actually ran that, but they ran it for the mob.
right.
They said we're going to supply one guy, and this guy is going to own Harlem and that whole thing. And so Harlem just started going down. But anyway, there was 2 things that literally kind of saved my life. My mom and dad got divorced, and it was my brother and I. My mom had to raise us, by herself, and what saved my life were 2 things: the movies, which is why I'm kind of there's something in my subconscious that brought me toward the movies, and then church, right? So and my godfather, who helped raise me, right, is the rector of St. Patrick Cathedral now.
Oh wow.
Okay,
Awesome.
in New York City.
Nice.
So he came from Harlem, right?
So we got an in there too. We'll have to
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you want to go, absolutely. Oh, we can take you to the
Yes,
crypt and that whole thing. That's great.
That would be awesome. We should do
So
that
anyway,
after the show.
long story short is that those were the two saving graces, and so I used to go to the movie theaters for free, and so I had all sorts of experiences there, in the sense of all of these going, because I didn't have money to go anywhere, and the movies took us to
a different
place,
yeah,
right?
different world, and
got
you away from all of
so
that stuff in Harlem at the time.
so the so-called contact that I had with my father, one of the things that he did was, and the way we communicated was, he took us to the movies.
Okay.
And so, so Star Wars and some of the, Superman and that whole thing. And so I guess that's another reason why I went into kind of like the movies. It was to get closer to my father, who's
cool.
no
That's
longer
bonding
right,
opportunity.
exactly. But he was in the Army, and we never got to see him a lot. So, saving graces. So I went to school. Wasn't a good student at all.
Where did you go to high school?
Great question. Good question. It's Cardinal Hayes High School.
Oh, Cardinal Hayes.
Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx. Yeah. So Martin Scorsese went there.
Used to play
okay, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
some rivals here?
yes, absolutely. Scanlon,
wow,
of course.
okay.
Went to Cardinal Hayes, Martin Scorsese, Regis Philbin. We had so many
Oh,
people.
really?
Yeah.
No
So,
kidding. You went with them?
no,
I think
yeah,
he's a little bit younger.
just no. He went a lot. He went in the '60s, right?
Yeah.
So,
Agent Nestor.
Yes.
so from that, then went to high school, then went to college, Iona College. So when I got out of high school, barely got out of high school, right? What I realized is, because I know that you have your other son is
Matthew.
Matthew is a brainiac, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
He gets it from me. Both of my sons get it from me. Sure.
I
He
do,
must have
yeah,
left
all
you with
right,
nothing
good,
left
yeah,
for you.
exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that I couldn't do is synthesize information, and I didn't really know how to learn.
All right.
So again, I was one of the most popular kids in my high school. I did every activity, but my school grades weren't great.
Right.
My brother and my cousin, they were like first and second honors and that whole thing, and. And so, people were like, why are you going to college? You should take up a trade and that whole thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when people tell me that I can't do anything, that's
That's
when
like a challenge to you.
that's a challenge to me, right? So I went to college,
Sure.
and then I graduated before my brother and my cousin, right? Because so I went to school also, and that's where I met my wife.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
so that
sure.
was that was wonderful. She always says that she graduated. You're supposed to graduate with 126, right? 122
Credits, right, something
She
like
always
that.
she always takes credit for all of the. She always says that she graduated with 200.
for yours too.
right,
Yeah.
for mine too, right?
Oh, okay. She takes credit for your
Right,
credit.
Exactly.
She's getting double credit.
Exactly.
You
So,
gotta get
she
the
helped
credit.
write my papers, type my papers and everything. I had to write them. She goes, I'm not writing them for you.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short is went to college, graduated college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do the music business, right?
Sure.
And so I told everybody, one of the things that when you want to do something, as you also you want to be a producer or director, tell everybody. You get it in your mind, right? Because we understand that if you tell yourself in your mind that you can do something and you're doing what you're doing, you got to put the time in, of course, but it's all controlled by your mindset.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And
you gotta
so
be positive. You gotta stay positive about those things.
all
keep
the
working
all the
on it,
time, and every
and things
day,
will work out
right?
eventually,
Absolutely,
yeah.
and it's about building habits, right?
Yeah.
And doing the little things, 20 minutes at a time or a half an hour, give it an hour a day or something like that. And
Yeah.
you just have to continue to do it.
Right.
Anyway, so So I went into the music industry. I had told a friend, and she goes, "Oh, by the way, I work at Zamba Music, Jive Records." I was like, "Wow, that's like you couldn't get any bigger than that."
Yeah, sure.
And so I worked there, and although again, I worked on the accounting side, and I got to see where the money went,
Right.
And how you actually truly get these records played. Right. And so
sometimes you just got to get your foot in the door. In
absolutely.
Just to get a start.
Absolutely.
You may not be where you want to be, but you know that now you're inside that industry, and you can move on to other things. You're seeing what's there, and people know you, and you're working with people now.
Absolutely.
So
now, for context, Nestor, your bachelor degree?
Yeah, bachelor degree was in business management.
Right,
okay. So I understood business, and one of the things that I wanted to do is when I went into the movie, when I finally realized, and this is after college, of why I wanted to be a producer. I said I wanted to take my business sense, right, and make things happen, right? And what does it take to make a movie like that? And so I was saying, how do I use my business aspect and my personality, because I'm kind of like very happy-go-lucky type of guy. And so I said, well, a producer does that, right? He creates the environment for artists to live in, right? He brings all these people together and he makes things happen, right? He raises money, he finds the script, he works with the director,
with the writers, I guess, too,
he brings in the writers and that whole thing. Sometimes it's the producer, it's a creative venue, environment for everybody to, and you get experts around. And so as I'll talk a little bit about, working with Steven Spielberg is that's mind blowing. Although I was the guy.
About that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
I definitely have quite a few questions about that. Just one or two.
Okay.
Sure,
Okay.
It's one of
Definitely same here.
Yeah, it's one of all of our favorites.
Yeah. Okay. And so went into the music industry, got to meet a lot of people. What I thought I then wanted to do was go into promotions, and that is calling all of the stations and making sure that they're playing your stuff, right? Because these things don't just happen. You have to call the stations every day and say, hey, you playing my song? You playing my song? You mentioned Low End Theory for Tribe Called Quest. Yeah, and so, and that's why I got played every day, right? Yeah. Because
constantly. It was ubiquitous in the city, at least.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And so, during the time that I was growing up, it was the emergence of hip hop. Right, and the culture and that whole thing. It obviously came from the Bronx, where it originated from, but Harlem had a big what to do in this influence in the growing of this, right? So during that time, so I was, I was dancer, and I used to go around and dance and put the white gloves on, and I used to battle and that whole thing and stuff, and it was exciting. It was exciting.
Rob, you still do that, right? Every now and then.
I'll pop and lock.
Yeah, pop and lock. I was never really a breaker. I was more a pop and locker type of thing. So. So
that's our next episode.
Pop and locking. Okay,
just a big flush popping them all.
We're just gonna do that on the show.
So from there, let's see, college, worked at the music industry, and then there was something that I said, well, do I really want to stay in the music industry? I asked about if there was any promotion jobs, and there wasn't at the time, and so there was something inside of me still burning, and I was like, well, maybe do I want to go into the movies, or do something in that world? And then it, like, one day it just hit me and said, yeah, that's what I really want to do, and I want to use my business background and do movies. So I had an opportunity to work for a post-production house, and it's Duart Films in New York City,
wow.
they did Shawshank Redemption and
my dad's favorite movie. Actually,
it's I can watch it every day. I can watch it every day of my life.
Number one movie on IMDb. It has been holding.
Has been forever.
It's a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
And so they've done all. What was the what's the documentary person? I can't even think of it. The Fahrenheit, the guy that did Michael Moore. Everybody, Spike Lee did all his movies there. M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah, so we had everybody come through there, right? And it was like the premier post-production house.
Wow, really?
So,
quick question on that though. How do you find how did you manage to come across something like that and get involved in it?
Again, you got to tell everybody.
Just be in the right place at the right time.
No, it's not. You got to make yourself at the right place at the right time. You got to tell everybody what you want to do. You got to put yourself out there.
Feel like a flea.
That's it. You got to say, this is what I want to do. Everybody, and you know anybody, or and it's a hustle. It's not
Can't
easy.
give up.
Can't give up.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was there. I worked there for I don't know, let's say 4 or 5 years.
What kind of? I'm sorry to interrupt. Nestor.
Yeah, no.
What kind of was the day-to-day on a post-production? Like, what kind of things are you
doing?
Great.
Okay, so that's a good question. So actually, when the film actually gets shot, right? Because this is digital now. We're in digital world, right?
Yeah.
This is the days of filming. So you had to go there, expose. Take the film, right, and then expose it like a photograph, right?
Okay.
And so from that, it needed treatment and a variety of things, and then you have to put light through it, so that way the image can come out. And there was a lot of people. Then you have to colorize it, and you had to blow it up. Sometimes people came in with 16 millimeter and how to actually turn into 35.
So it got really complicated because in my day it was we used to do cave drawings. And
Funny enough, when I went to college, I shot on film.
Okay.
And I had a project where we had synced audio on I forget the name of the machine, but it's the editing machine. You have like the actual lines of tracks, and oh my god, it was the most annoying thing I've ever done in my life.
No, you had to edit, and you had to watch it and edit at the same time. Martin Scorsese always talks about that, in all of his, when he talks and that whole thing about how he used to edit. But again, we had this place was running 24 hours, and we took care of everybody's films. ABC did stuff, NBC did stuff, and this was a place that was around since the 1920s.
So it must have been a lot of expectation there.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, not handling big people.
No, absolutely. So the film came in, you had to treat it, expose it, and then you had people edit it, and then transfer it. Obviously transfer it as the video came in, and then people would then offline. What we do now offline, as opposed to what you did, which is edit the actual film and actually cut it there.
That's awesome.
Versus now they took it into the digital world, and then people were able to cut it and then went back to the film. One of the things that film does that digital doesn't allow you to do is you're able to prepare yourself better. What I mean by that is when you did a film, that cost money. Digital is so cheap now that they just let the camera run, right? Versus actually when people were there. I'm not saying that people don't actually make, but it's easier to leave these cameras on and let it run.
Yeah.
Than back in the days when they did the films, people were really a little bit more. Cost effective, methodical about what shots I'm going to actually get, right? Versus let the camera run and we'll cut it and we'll put it in post, right? Because that's a famous. That's one of the things that everybody we'll fix it in post, right? So
that's what Brian does.
Yeah, exactly. I know even we talked about like with Netflix is now like with their budgets, they're not great with budget control, and I feel like that's with a lot of things nowadays with digital is now that everything's become so convenient. It's really getting to the point where people aren't as money conscious as they used to be, and there's a lot of waste going into everything nowadays.
Absolutely. But and then although Netflix is certainly they're definitely changing the game, and obviously we see all of the news about them, and now Apple TV is coming out, right? Not Apple TV, but Disney Plus, right? The subscription.
Actually, our show on Tuesday we talk about we're going to be talking. That's one of the things we're talking about
Disney Plus review.
Okay.
Well, we will. We already did talk about it.
Yes, because they're hearing it already.
Yeah, they would have heard it already.
Well, they got the I guess 10 million the first.
It went up huge. huge. I actually bought some of their stock. And
is that right? Really? Okay.
You
went for the pop there.
I figured, what the heck? I hit it a little early. I wish I had thought about it earlier, but I bought it after. It went up,
all right,
20% or something, or 10%.
And so film, okay, and then from that, I went into television. And I worked in Spanish television, Univision.
Okay.
And so you guys probably know all of the sexy women that are on Univision. It was the competitor.
Yeah.
Right. And so I did that
I was
for
learning Spanish from my 12 years old to about 14 years old.
Those Spanish soap operas were incredible.
Muy caliente.
They're amazing. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I worked and sold the World Cup. Right, and so we worked on World Cup, and we sold advertising time, right, for AT&T and all Ford and a variety of others. But still, there was something inside of me that said, "You're still not doing what you know." I just left film. I'm in television, but there's something else. I want to go to the other side of post-production. What does it actually take to do a film on the production side, not the post-production side, because you got so much knowledge about film from the post-production side of how to actually do stuff. So now I wanted to take that. So 11 days before September 11th, I left Univision and I went to Hollywood. I called my wife and I said, "Hun, I'm leaving this place." And she was like, "What?" And I said, no, I gotta go. There's something calling me. And she goes, "Okay, if you think so, do what you feel."
So how old are you about now?
Okay, now at that time, I was close to 30.
Okay, so
I was in late 20s, 29. I was in 29 or
and
29,
you guys are
30.
in the city still, or
Yeah, we were living in the city. Okay. Yes, absolutely. And so, so I literally, September happened when I was in California. So I literally left and I said I was going to California. So I went to visit a friend, and September 11th happened while I was out there. And so my wife was like, "Oh, okay, dude, you need to come back." And I was like, "We don't know what's happening here." And so I'm trying to get back. And so I got here. And so I was like, my legs between, I just left a job, a nice cushy job.
Sure.
And nobody's head was in the production world, right? Everybody was just like, is it we're under attack or what have you?
Sure.
Right?
Sure, it's like
and
changing.
so, and so I said, well, I'm still going to pursue what I really want to do, which is to be on the production side. So I worked on Law and Order. Dick Wolf and got to know. So I worked, 16-hour days and got like $80 or something like that, and it was, you were there all night and you were doing, overtime was taken by taxes, and you're like, what? How do I make 11? No, it's not. It wasn't.
So you had to make some big sacrifices in the beginning.
Huge sacrifices. Huge sacrifices. Sure. You had to go into your savings and that whole thing because you weren't making ends meet.
Right.
And so, worked on. Then I had an opportunity to work for a commercial house, and there I learned everything about production,
right.
Cameras and what producers and line producers and coordinators and what is a director and all of those things that I wanted to do. And we did it on stage, right? Because I did it on the tabletop world. When you look at the Pizza Hut and you see that 3 seconds of like, damn, I'm hungry, and you see it, So we were in charge of that, for McDonald's and Pizza Hut and Wendy's and you name it, we did it. Wow. Cereals, like you had glue for milk, and I was
just gonna say, Nestor, there's all those YouTube videos now about like, oh, here's how food commercials are really shot.
Absolutely.
Here's how they actually do it.
The thing that we used to do, is funny, for
delicious.
pizza or something like that, we used to put like acid on there, right? and then we would then put water on top of it, and then you would obviously see it steam up.
Right?
You would see it steam up, right? So I was like, okay. Excuse me.
He's
I've
trying to
seen
make it
like
look
they
as
put in like
appetizing,
beer,
right?
they put like Dawn dish soap and
Yeah.
that with the fizz. And,
I mean, there's so
no
many
kidding.
different ways. Yeah, there was so many different things that we had to do.
Oh,
and
we
I-
used to watch. What was it? Meatball with the cartoon, the
Yeah.
animated one. It's raining meatball, whatever it is.
Cloudy with a Chance of
Cloudy with
Meatballs.
a Chance.
Yeah.
They showed. I think it was after like the cut at the end. How
Right.
they made the sound for the things falling,
Oh,
and it was
yeah,
the
yeah,
women
yeah.
using wet towels and hitting
Okay,
it on
so that's
floors.
Foley. That's called Foley.
Foley?
Foley.
Yeah.
Foley.
Okay.
When you
To make the sound of the food hitting
absolutely,
the ground. and
yeah.
stuff.
And so
Yeah.
that's when you hear footsteps and everything.
Yeah,
like in
they
The
did all
Walking
the
Dead, I
sounds.
think the sound of the zombies eating was literally just someone eating wings as loud as they could.
Oh, really?
How they come with that SMR?
Oh, and the
whatever.
broken bones. The broken bones was broccoli. Celery. They used to take celery and break the celery.
yeah,
in half.
Yeah, it's-
It sounded like
it's
broken
crazy how
bones.
creative those people can be.
That's movie magic is just amazing, and that's why I love it.
pretty interesting.
So from there, then I worked as from a PA to a production coordinator. Worked on other people's projects. Then I had an opportunity to go to Kuwait. I knew a director out there, and so we went out there, and then I was in charge of over 200 people.
Wow.
And I had to get extras and what the music was going to be like and art direction and that whole thing, and I had to put all of this thing together. And I was showing people how to put things together, how to do this out there, and so they asked me back, and so it was something else, another big project that we had to do. It was like for Verizon out there, and there was like 500 people that that I was in charge of.
Wow, really?
And put all of these people together with my director, those projects were fun, and I had to obviously number crunch and made sure that it fit the budget and a variety of things. But so going this job actually took me to places around the world, and so from that, then I started my company. I started my company in 2003, yeah. And so from that, I worked with a variety of directors and did commercials.
Right.
And so I'm actually, literally working on producing my first feature.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah. So from that. But it's not easy to create a film, right?
I can only imagine,
we
yeah.
we only to finance it, to find the right story, and make sure that it makes sense, and you have a target audience. You have to think.
Yeah.
What I do is the way I think of film is to think of it backwards. What's the end result? Who's actually going to watch this? And then start thinking backwards from there. What is the post-production going to be? What's the production going to be? And then what's the concept? All of those things. What does the trailer look like? Right,
Exactly.
right.
That's
Because
the
that's what.
biggest thing is prep work.
Right,
If
exactly.
you can do that, you're already setting yourself up to be good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's not easy. And now everybody with an iPhone thinks that they're a director, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
they talk
So-
about everything being shot on iPhones nowadays, and
Yeah, it's pretty
yeah.
wild.
So what's going to separate the people that do iPhone movies from everybody else is the quality of and the stories, right? It's your story that's going to carry and hold people engaged in their story. So.
I also not to interrupt, but
Yeah, no.
I hear a lot of, like, I know, like, when I actually did a development internship, which was basically kind of like we take the stuff from when we get the scripts and we do the coverage and the treatments.
yeah.
And I hear a lot of stories about, they call it development hell, where it's just, the producers they see the first draft and they bring it back to the writer, and it just keeps going back and forth and back and forth. And then it turns out like maybe 3 years it's been stuck in pre-production. Do you have any experience with that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I used to work for a guy named Edward Pressman, and he was one of the top producers in Hollywood, and I used to do coverages for him. And so what you would do is they would send me scripts, and I would then break it down from what are the characters, the arc, does it make sense? Do I recommend this? And I had to try to find stories, because these producers are looking for great stories, and you got to make sure that the structure is fine, and the characters and the dialogue and that whole thing. And so I did that for several months and that whole thing. But again, I had to make money, right? That was kind of like an internship. So I was like, oh, goodness gracious, I have to do something. And so that's why, you took any job that you possibly could within there. And it's about developing the network, right? One PA had, a job here or something, or a coordinator, and they need to fill in the jobs. And so yes, I did some coverages and that whole thing. But I think the other part of that, of the development of what you're talking about, is how once you have the money, or trying to get money for some of those coverages, because once you have a great story, okay, now what, right?
Then becomes the hard part.
Now you have to go out and sell it. You have to get the right cast around it. You have to see who's coming in as financing and who's going to be the director, and a variety of things, right? And it's so hard to get movies made. But now it's easier today than it was back then, because of the accessibility of the technology. Everybody you can make a movie today. With digital cameras and your laptop and that whole thing. Sure. As long as the story connects with people, right? And how you tell it, because obviously we know that there's more ways today to make stories, right? There's AR now, and VR, and a variety of other ways.
And Snapchat's the big one. I'm basically a director. I've made quite a few Snapchat videos. Pretty good ones.
So
it's pretty good.
We're gonna take a short break.
Want to take a quick break, Dad?
Yeah, and
that sounds good.
So. And we'll come back. We're going to pick your brain, because we're going to ask about all the people and the actors and the movies you worked on and those things. And in the meantime, take a look at the graphics, and we'll be back in a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Hey everyone, we wanted to say thanks for listening. We just wanted to throw up real quick the link to Nestor's website, which is Avant Garde Entertainment's website. If you're listening, though, you could probably find it in the description of this episode. Anyways, go check them out, and you can see what they're doing. And then we also wanted to say thank you. It's been 23 episodes now that we've been putting content out for you guys. And for all you tuning in every single week to listen to us, we are greatly appreciative. It's one of the things we're really thankful for this year. And we hope to bring you many, many months more of content. And if you're new and just tuning in, welcome to the show. And we hope to bring you a ton of new content as well. We hope you stay for a while and really enjoy what we're doing. With that being said, let's get back to the episode, and we'll see you guys later.
Okay, so welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that, and like I said before the break, we have so many questions to ask about the people that you've met, and the directors you met, the actors you met, the actors you worked with. I'm sure you guys got a lot of questions, so I'm not going to hog it all. What do you guys want to ask them?
Well, Brian,
shoot.
It's all you, man.
Okay, so I guess out of all the people you've worked with, I know people see these movies and these actors, they all you see is them portraying these characters. You never get a sense of who they really are. So what some of your favorite people to work with?
When working with these professionals, it's wonderful to see how they are able to expand on their craft, right? They have to learn all of these lines, but obviously act them out, and they work incredibly hard, and it's not easy, right? Because the competition there is tremendous, in directing and producing and that whole thing. But some of my favorite people, I had an opportunity to work with Steven Spielberg, and the guy had a crane there, right? But just in case he wanted to use it, right? It wasn't called for, but it was just there just in case, right?
Just in case.
Right? And so, when you have budgets like what Steven Spielberg has, right, and using equipment that you don't even need, but just in case. But there was Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio and that whole thing. And
that must have been amazing.
Catch Me If You Can. To see the amount of work of what it took to do that. We did it out of we did it out of JFK Airport, and we transformed a TWA. You remember the TWA that, right? We had to make it look like a TWA station, right? And it was all blank slate, and so you had so many professionals coming in. You had the producers, you had the directors. The director was Steven, and but all of these people coming together, and you have the reason why movies cost so much is you have these people at the A game, right? These guys,
these are the best
of the best. Yeah, the best of the best.
Writers,
right.
Actors.
You know, and so when piracy happens, you're putting a lot of people out of work. Right?
Yeah,
kind of. It's and so they obviously with streaming and that whole thing, now it's a lot better, right? And people are literally paying for it now. But there was a time where it ran rapid, and so they had to put signs there. If you copy this,
too, right?
Look you mentioned the streaming because like movies back when we were young. Yeah, when I was young.
When was that?
Really? When was that?
That was a long time ago. Before they
didn't really have moving pictures back
no,
then.
We used to do shadow figures. We used to do shadow
Sock
figures in the
puppets.
moonlight, and sock puppets, things like that. But when they actually started to get like film, like they actually had the moving pictures.
1900?
Yeah.
Like
The
1900?
Yeah.
When the moving pictures stopped.
Okay, so D.W. Griffith back then?
Yeah,
early 1900s?
Absolutely.
What's the guy you were showing me the other day? Literally, you were showing me
The,
montage
yeah,
of the silent film.
The silent film guy.
Oh my goodness.
Buster Keaton?
Buster Keaton.
Buster
Keaton's one of my favorites. Yeah.
You were
So-
actually, like, the other day you were showing me
that's real comedy right there.
Yeah, no, that's
Hilarious.
awesome, man. That guy can
That's
make you
good
laugh
stuff.
without
Yeah.
saying
Timeless
a
comedy.
word.
I
It's
was
very
laughing
good. It's
at it, and I was like,
Yeah, right.
So
I'd never
Nestor, when
seen
you're
it.
telling us
The thing
about
is-
the story with the JFK, I'm sorry to
No,
jump
go
in.
ahead, yeah.
Just briefly, I was wondering. It sounds like so many people. You see credits like most of us as easy movie goers. We don't really watch it. How many people are you talking about that are involved in a?
Oh,
project
great
like that?
question. And so one of my favorite parts of the movies is I stay all the way to the end of the credits. Right, because I'm like so enthralled of how many people came in,
Well, your
whether
name's
from
probably in the credits.
I have had
say
my
there,
I've had my names up in credits, which is pretty cool. But no, I always watch the credits because I go okay, because I do it in my head as a line producer. I say, oh my God, you see all these people. That's all of those people have to get paid, right? So
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my goodness, on and on. What about when you go like Born Identity or something like that? When they go to different places, locations in Paris and then London. You have a film crew in London, and then how does that money convert from this, that, and the other
European,
thing, right?
yeah,
Exactly,
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And you have to pay these people, and you have to get different payroll services, and you have to get talent and
So
different.
when you say that like Spielberg had imagine his budget, but now it's not his money, right? It's raised money. How does that work? Like, where does that money come from? His produced money, the money he has a
Great question.
it's $80 million to spend on
I've
a
actually
movie.
always
Where's that
wondered
come
that
from?
myself.
Okay, well, because he's already a proven entity, right? A lot of that can just come from a studio.
Just the studio puts the
right?
money out, right? Okay.
But when you are, let's say you're not Steven Spielberg, and even Steven Spielberg, I'm sure that with today's budgets, you have the studio maybe give you maybe 50%, and then you have to get the other 50%.
Raise it from some
And
other
so
means.
you
Wow.
yeah,
You
and
get
so
investors
you get
to-
investors,
Okay.
right?
Oh,
And so
wow.
you give them the investors obviously expect a rate of return on their money, right, or
Promise
something
of
like
a
that.
certain
Yeah,
rate of
right.
return.
And so,
Sure.
Absolutely.
and so it's maybe it's 20% plus it's an IP, right? So it lives for a very very long time, right? And so you may have it where it's it goes through different generations and it's still making money,
Still making
right?
money.
That was a big thing. Was that I know with Star Wars, that was basically like. It's good to make it in the box office back, but I mean, when you have something like Star Wars where you can just literally be selling toys and video games and post stuff,
the
it's like you
connected
make your money after the movie.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there is there's something that I'm working with another friend of mine, and we called it Transmedia. If you guys ever heard of that, well, that's you're taking a story and you're making it live in so many different platforms. Like you tell it on the screen different than you tell it on the website, right? And so it kind of like lives, and on your phone, it's you give a little bit more background of the story. So it's taking a story and making it live within the different platforms that it lives in, and so and then you kind of expand the universe.
Sure,
it's expanding the universe.
Right.
So
Have you?
when you talk about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And it has so many different tentacles, right? And then obviously George Lucas sold it to Disney for $4 billion, or and that whole thing. And now there's no better distribution in the world than Disney. Right,
Oh, yeah.
we know that they're the game changers, right?
And of course now
that's
that
where
they own
to-
everything. Now they bought 20th Century Fox and
Marvel.
all that. Well,
and
a lot
Marvel,
of it, at least, and
all the Marvel stuff, right?
See, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to follow up on. Now is that now the movies, when I was getting to the movies thing,
Yeah.
a lot of things that people don't go to the movies like they used to when I was a kid. Most people now, they,
theater,
like myself, I wait for it to come out on streaming networks or
Okay.
something like that, or on.
Yeah.
Wait till the movie comes out where you can pick it up on whatever HBO, Netflix, one of these things.
the thing about
I just wanted to know: do you see a difference now? Is it more aimed at the streaming world and the streaming networks more so than the movies now?
you have your diehard directors, like Martin Scorsese, who live kind of like for the theater, but
Right.
His latest movie, The Irishman,
Yeah.
is also now a
Netflix.
stream free.
Netflix, right.
Well, because he had a passion project, it cost $160 million or something like that. And
Yeah.
Netflix said, "I'll take care of it."
Yeah, hell yeah.
And who's not going to do that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Okay, but I still think that there is a viability and a communal way to go to the theater. Still,
I
I
agree.
think it's still
Yeah,
wonderful.
no, it's-
I agree
I mean, I
completely,
like I like to stay on my couch and
Sure.
do that, but I also like to go to the movies.
Yeah,
I
'cause it's
couldn't agree
an
more.
event. It's an
Yeah, no,
event for me.
exactly, right.
And
Yeah,
you like to hear
100%,
people laughing or
The
crying, or I
experience
don't
of
think the
shared,
experience.
shared experience.
Sure,
I think
absolutely.
Nowadays, like with me in particular, you and I with the Marvel universe,
Yeah, we always go to the
we
theaters.
always go to
We've
the
seen
theaters,
every single
so-
Marvel movie in the theaters.
Right, and when
usually
you know that I'm a Star Trek fan, so
Yeah.
every time a new Star
Star
Trek
Trek
movie
comes
came out,
out.
I went to the
Star
theater
Wars
for
too,
those.
really,
Star
we go
Wars
do
too.
that,
Like certain ones, I would definitely go see in
Yeah.
the theater. Other ones, I'd be like, oh, wait
Yeah,
till
sure.
it comes out.
Yeah,
I'll see it
right,
in a while.
That's how I feel
right.
too.
There
You know what
are
I'm saying?
movies. Yeah, there are movies that you have to go see the spectacle.
Yeah,
right? The
yeah,
big. You want to
that,
see it on the big
absolutely.
screen, and
Right.
it's like when. Again, I didn't have a great relationship with my father, but he did take me to the movies, and it's one of the things I still remember. When Superman, you hear that soundtrack of John Williams coming up, and then Superman's there with Christopher Reeves, and it's like mind blowing. I was just like, wow, what is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you get people cheering.
Yeah.
Like I saw this one movie, Don't Breathe. It was a horror movie, and
Yeah,
it was
sure,
horror
yeah.
kind of action with Stephen Lang. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was just. I remember if I had not seen that in a theater the first time, it just wouldn't have been the
Wouldn't have
same.
been the same.
With like
Yeah,
people
no.
were just like, yeah,
Exactly. No, yeah,
That's true.
I like when you share that experience with other people. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But like you said, there are movies that you don't need to see in the theater.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And there are some movies that you don't have to spend the $10 or
Yeah.
$13.
Versus like
or
that's
something.
where I was trying to make the
$13.
analogy. Was back in the day, you went to go see every movie. Because
Right.
there
Right.
was nothing.
There
You know,
wasn't
you-
else. Right.
That is that
The
competition
channels-
with all the
Oh,
other
there's
places,
a lot.
you know?
That's the and you and I were talking about this. The currency today is attention. Right. Everybody's on YouTube or Snapchat or what have you. That's the currency today, and the best content is going to win people's attention. Right. So. But the story that I wanted to tell is one time when I had an opportunity to meet Jonathan Demme, who
I
did
was just
Silence.
gonna actually ask you that.
Sounds like one of my favorite
Silent-
movies.
yeah.
Stuff that you made.
And so I was on a train coming home, getting off at Beacon, and I see this guy, and I was like, "Wait a minute, was that Jonathan Demme?" And I'm like
Wow.
going from
You don't
car
know
to
who-
car.
If you out there don't know who
Right.
Jonathan Demme
Silence of the
is,
Lambs.
Silence
Right.
of the Lambs is one
Yeah,
of
Nestor.
his more popular films.
He also
Yeah.
did Philadelphia.
Oh,
a great
which
movie.
amazing
And
movie.
Married to the Mob.
Married to the Mob, right?
awesome.
And so I literally passed him, and I said, "Oh no, I'm gonna sit right next to him, right?" And because he had an empty seat right next to him, and so I was there, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, then he's kind of like saw the way I was looking at a sandwich or something like that. He goes, "Hey, you want some?" And I was like, "No, you enjoy that sandwich the way I enjoy your movies." So
cool.
he
What a cool
automatically,
line.
yeah. So he immediately knew that I knew who he was, right? And so then he breaks out a bottle of champagne, and I guess he was celebrating maybe one of his movies got financed or something.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
and we actually did some work in the post-production house. We did some work of his there. And so I said, I'll take some champagne though. And, so we're just talking about it and that whole thing. And so we're talking about the next movie, and Rachel getting married with wait a minute, what's her name? It's one of my favorite actresses. What's her name?
Rachel Getting Married is the name of the movie?
Yeah, Rachel Getting Married.
That sounds so familiar.
Well, she was in The Devil's Wear Prada. What's her name?
Oh, is that Meryl Streep?
No. Anne Hathaway.
Hathaway.
Okay, and I can tell the world, yes, Anne Hathaway. I'm a big Anne Hathaway fan.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
And so he says, "Hey, Nestor, I'm doing a movie, Rachel Getting Married, in Connecticut. If you're around, I would love for you to come down and be on set and that whole thing." And I was like, "Yes, I will take you up on that." And so, I go on set. They give me the cans, and he's there directing her, in the next room and that whole thing. And so, I got to eat lunch with everybody, and it was great.
Brian, why can't that happen to you? What's going on?
I don't know. But no, it's funny you say this, because I know in school a big thing is they talk about the elevator pitch, which is like the 30-second thing. And so I remember sitting in class and saying like, "This is this is never gonna happen. It's never gonna work." You just gave a perfect example of how that 30 seconds.
You just never know. There was another time that I was out to dinner, and I had seen one of my favorite producers. His name is Arnold Colson, and he did like Eraser, and he did what is it with I'm drawing a blank with Harrison Ford in it was a Runaway.
That's
The Fugitive. Okay, The Fugitive, and he was one of the biggest producers, and he was like literally next. He was sitting next to us, and I was there with my wife's family, and we're having that at a nice restaurant, and I said, "Oh no, I have to go over, and I have to, and I just said, I'm a big fan, and I love all your movies and that whole thing," and he goes, another time he says, "I'm shooting a movie with Andrew Davis, who's the director and that whole thing, and it's a perfect murder with Michael Douglas. Would you like to come down and that whole thing?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Wow.
So,
see if I got time in my sketch for that.
Yeah, and so I talked to his secretary, and she was like kind of like she and I called her and I was like, "Hey, Arnold asked me to come down and that whole thing," and she was like very flighty about not letting me go to the thing. And I was like, I knew where they were. I did research. I found out where they were, and I said, I'm not going to let a secretary tell me that I can't go down on set. He asked me to go down set. I got a nice bottle of wine, an amazing bottle of wine, and it was a Arnold Colson and his wife, Ann Colson. I should say both of them were two peas in a pod. Both of them were amazing producers. Let me say that. And so I got a nice bottle of wine, and the PA is like, "I have Nestor Rodriguez down here. We're gonna send him up," and I was like. And this is when I said, "Oh no, this is the world. This is one of the. This is what all the trucks are outside, and they're trying to capture this environment of business office and that whole thing, and so Arnold sees me. He goes, "Hey, welcome," and that whole thing. I give him a bottle of wine. They're reading about themselves in Variety magazine and that whole thing. And Michael Douglas comes in and out of the and talks to Michael. And there was this wonderful producer that also produced this film. His name is Stephen Brown. And Stephen Brown says, "Hey, why don't you sit in this chair?" And it's like, the premier chairs of the action is literally happening in the next room. And, you have your cans together. They call them cans, headphones.
They gave you two soda cans.
Two soda cans.
You have can cons, actually, where you're going. Yeah.
Oh, you get like
Try
headphones?
out.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
And so I was like, Oh
Must have
my
been amazing.
God! And I see all of the people running around, and I was like, and I said, the producer's in charge of this.
Wow.
The producer is the guy that
that
makes
was
this
Who does
happen.
all of this?
And I said, this is what I
That
wanna
was
do.
it.
Speaking
And I
of-
said,
Nestor, that's
yeah,
amazing,
that
man.
was great. That was
Speaking
great.
of producing, why don't you tell us about your latest project that you're
Oh
working
yeah,
on right now?
absolutely, man.
Oh, so I'm
Yes.
working on a television streaming channel for adults 50 plus, and it's a lifestyle channel.
Oh wow, my God.
So think of health, wealth, a variety of different things, anything that caters to this target audience. And so now we're on what they call the Road Show.
Okay.
And we're raising money for we look like we have our first investment in.
Ooh.
And we literally found that out in the last week or so, which is
Wow.
good.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Yeah,
And so we see this as not only a streaming channel, an OTT channel. Think of Netflix, but for
Right.
or the kind of like the food channel,
Yeah.
but for adults 50 plus.
Which
and,
is great.
And so think of travel and a variety of different things.
Like an
that-
Anthony Bourdain kind of
yeah,
show, almost
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
but
something
there's
like
there's
that, but
24
like-
hours of
but-
that.
Oh,
right.
okay, so it's right nonstop.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
a 24 hours
That's
of
amazing.
programming that you have to come up with that.
Yeah,
And
right,
so
right.
and so we feel, my partners and I feel that this generation, which we call Generation Prime, because we feel that they're the prime of their life. They have all this experience and that whole
Yeah.
thing. And now I guess the millennials are saying, "Okay, Boomer."
Okay,
right,
that's the
right.
new-
That's the new
thing.
thing, right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like,
The new
no,
thing.
wait a minute. You want money? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like
Right.
now, right? The parents are now.
Try walking into a job interview and saying that to your boss and see if you get the job. That's what I laugh about. All these people saying, I'm a millennial. All these people saying, okay, boomers. All the people that are sitting at home at their computers all day can't get a job.
Right.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
And what it is that their last this generation is and it's boomers, but not only that, Generation X, which is me,
Right.
And I will be 50 next year, right? And so I don't want to think of retirement.
Yeah.
I don't think.
still active.
And see, I don't want my AARP card. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
right,
right.
I'm running
It's like
marathons.
Yeah.
I'm still running marathons
Friggin',
and stuff. So.
my
Clint
generation.
Eastwood is still making movies. He's starring in movies. He was just
he's in 70s, and he's might be close to.
I
He's
think
80,
I
I
think
think.
he might be 90. I think there's a good chance.
No, wait, you got to find
He's
out.
in the
no,
80s.
I gotta
no, he's in the
figure that
80s.
out.
He's in the 80s.
In the 80s,
He's
I
in
guess that
the
makes
80s.
more sense.
So anyway, we are creating a 24-hour streaming channel for adults 50 plus.
That's
Cool. Now this is done through your AE.
Actually,
No,
this
this
is
is
the
another
Avant
company.
Garde.
This is
Separate
another
company,
separate
so-
company.
I gotta tell you guys
but
real quick.
but the thing.
Clint Eastwood is actually 89 years old.
89
years
oh,
old.
okay, so 90.
I thought I remembered someone
Holy
saying that
cow.
in the Mule, like at the premiere. They're like,
Okay.
how does it feel to be 89 years old, directing, starring, and writing your own movies?
Oh,
He's
my
done a
God.
lot of
That's
stuff,
amazing.
obviously, but I still love Gran Torino.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Gran Torino.
that's
times.
good. That was
Yeah.
good. That was a good movie.
So there's a lot. You guys have any more questions?
Well,
You
I
know
definitely-
we have
so-
hundreds more questions. I'm sure.
Nestor, so this is a television channel, though, right? So
It's a television channel,
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
But
Yeah,
we're
it's a
also
television.
going to build a web entity, I like to call it,
Gotcha.
and news and information and podcast
Oh,
on
wow.
the
That's amazing, man.
on website.
Yeah.
And think of like kind of like the
It's
Wall
really
Street Journal.
multimedia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget
And
about
then
Lucy
obviously
Related on
absolutely,
Yeah.
Our
absolutely,
target audience
right.
is anybody with hearing.
Anybody who has a speaker. Yeah.
And then obviously the mobile phone, right? Building branded content and that whole thing,
Applications, right.
So that's quite exciting. And who's going to be doing all the production? AGE, Avant Garde
so
Entertainment.
AGE.
Avant Garde Entertainment. It's going to be doing.
Avant-Garde.
It's going to be
Avant-Garde
doing all of that,
Entertainment.
right? So it's going to be my company doing a lot of the production for
And
this.
we will
Right?
include a link to AG's
Yeah.
website.
Absolutely,
AG's
yes.
So
AG
so I
NYC.
saw it like
Yeah.
that,
Oh,
right? I
yeah.
saw it. Now that's business coming into my world. Now that I'm the founder, I know it was incredibly hard, but
Yeah.
now my team at AGE
Yeah.
can obviously do the editing, the visual effects, the sound, and all of
Yeah.
those things in our studios down in New York City.
In New York City,
So
okay.
so they're going to need content, right?
Yeah.
It's a 24-hour channel, and I
Right.
can't do
Right.
this
Oh,
all
you
by
gotta
myself.
feed it.
Of
You
course
gotta
not,
feed
right?
the
Yeah,
beast.
100%.
That's I have a question, if you don't mind. It's a little less specifically about business and more about like personality or your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. I'm seeing a lot of things, and there's like a clear pattern to me of that you don't seem to be satisfied in one niche. I mean, I've seen you done a ton of music.
Yep.
Then you went to post production, pre-production, and then you went all out on your own to open your own company, the Avant Garde Entertainment. So over this time span, I wonder, like, what was your family support like? I mean, obviously, it must have had to come
Great question, and I owe it a lot to my wife, right? And my godfather, who my mother, my godfather, my brother, all of those people. How again, there were times where it was hard. It's not easy to do what I wanted to do, right? And I followed my passion, and it wasn't easy. But again, if I had a steady partner in my wife who has been my number one support
thing you have to have. If your wife's
you need a support system.
You need a support system. College, right? This is your
yeah. Since college, right? So I'm 49 now, so we just celebrated our 20th anniversary. But I was there. But I've been with her 30 years now, over 30 years, right? So
you don't hear a lot of that.
So you're there.
You don't hear that a lot.
Yeah, no, but you need it takes a village, especially in this business. I mean, in anything that you do, and you're a nurse, and I'm sure you've had your support with people, right? Mm-hmm. And so you had late nights that you had to study and that whole thing, and there were a lot of interruptions.
No, he's been over here with his study, and my son used to tutor him with the statistics.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah,
Let me tell you, statistics.
Thank God.
My wife had to go over calculus because I couldn't get it. I couldn't. I didn't understand.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm kind of taking that right now. Like we were talking about school before, I'm like when you were talking before about you going to business and all that. It really it feels like you and me had such a similar thing, and you actually went, you kind of pursued your dream. As you can probably tell from talking about me and people watch the podcast, I love movies, I love film. I've talked about it in the past. One of my dream jobs, last episode we talked about, was I always wanted to be a screenwriter. I went to school for business. I went to SUNY New Paltz, and I got my a BS in accounting and all that, and so I was working as an accountant, and I'm at Marist right now going to grad school, get my MBA in financial management or whatever. But part of me was like,
what do you want to do with that?
Yeah,
but
he's a good writer, Nestor. Okay. He's a very good. He's always been a talented writer.
I'm going to put you on to this amazing. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
It's something called Contour.
Okay.
And it actually gives you the layout of how to structure your stories and write scripts.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So you and I obviously talk about that.
Yeah.
But I had given that to a friend of mine. His name is Kevin Wilson.
Yeah.
I guess it was 7 years ago. No, now it's like 8 years or something like that. And he had mentioned to me, because I had been in the movie, and we were both in post-production kind of like around the same time, but he said, oh no, Nestor, when I come out with a movie and I write a script, it's going to easily sell. And I said, no, wait 10 years, and then you're going to get it, hopefully, read, or, that whole thing. And he's like, nah, 10 years. Come on, Nestor. Right. And so now we're in like the 10th year, and now it's starting to get, he got some acclaim. He was called, I think he was on something called The Blacklist. And it's where you find top script. Okay. Yeah. And so he got mentioned in that and that whole thing, and so he took he wrote like now, I think he wrote like 10 scripts so far in that whole thing, and he has them in different avenues everywhere right now. Different avenues. Maybe some are being looked at for casting, and some might be finance and that whole thing. But it's not easy. You can still be a screenwriter, right? You just have to put the work into it. Sure. And trust me when I tell you, your first screenplay is going to be crap. Okay, but that's okay. That's okay. Yep. Yeah. That's all right. But
it's all about perseverance.
Absolutely,
right. Perseverance. In this industry, perseverance is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just got to keep at it.
I think it harkens back to something you said earlier, and I think I liked your question. It was interesting, or your comment on saying about the screenwriter. It's difficult, but I heard Nestor mention a few times earlier. There's something to be said about when you say, "I am." Whatever it is. So in your case, you said earlier, I am going to be a producer. I am a producer.
That's right.
It's like taking onus, and it's telling other people, I have onus, and this is what I am. And I think it makes you take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
It's like, I am going to quit smoking. You tell people that. Now you feel like you almost you put it out there, you have to follow through with it.
Sure. Absolutely. It's a mindset.
I am 6'2". That's what you tell yourself.
I do say that.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to change anything, unfortunately.
Well, because I have doubter friends. I have doubter Thomas over here.
But if Muggsy Bogues, he said, "Hey, look, right? Those guys. It's a mindset that you have to go. So
for sure.
Although you're doing the whole Maris thing, dedicate in the morning. What time do you wake up?
About like 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, I wake up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. Right?
Okay,
so if you just take a half an hour, if you wake up a half an hour earlier, right? Okay,
right.
And you say, okay, I'm going to dedicate 20 minutes a day, of learning about screenplays and that whole thing or whatever. You'll be amazed of the accomplishments that you would be able to do. Say, okay, I'm going to get, but then also put a deadline on it, right?
Okay,
Say, I'm going to write, and I want to have it done by the end of December, right? And then you keep yourself accountable, right? Is what you were just talking about. Sure.
That's a big thing. Like with me, is accountability. Because like with this podcast with you guys, the reason why I'm so on top of that and getting it out is because it's accountability to make sure that I'm getting it for you.
Yeah.
When I'm writing a script,
and not for us, it's for our audience
and the audience. Yeah. But when I'm writing a script and it's me in a room, it's a huge problem to just be like, okay, I have to like 2 hours
to focus
today.
yourself and do it, because there's nothing like necessarily pushing you to do it. Like here, you have a deadline, you have a goal. With that, I can do it whenever.
What you also want to maybe do is you don't really need to, and maybe to maybe get you in the groove is to maybe look at a screenwriting class. Right.
I thought about it.
And so don't think about it.
Right.
You got to go
just
do it.
That's the whole thing, right? If you think about it,
if you're passionate
about
it, that whole thing. And then be prepared once you have it. You got to get it out to everybody. Right. And you
have a good source of right here.
Absolutely, I'll help you out any way I can.
Right here, who
I read tons
point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Well, like I said, hearing your story, it reminds me of me. Just that you actually went for it, and I kind of said, I'll just stick with accounting and I'll just do that.
See, that's not the way. That's not you won't put your heart and soul into it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
for sure.
Although it creates a good, stable, a good, stable financial background that you need to obviously maintain yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
But
but it's not something you can't just continue. You never know.
Absolutely, you never know, boss. You might have the story of the century, boss. Everybody has their own stories, and everybody has $1 million idea.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I have Rob's story. I'll just tell that.
Yeah.
So not only am I a producer, I'm also an entrepreneur, right? So I'm trying to. So I keep myself viable in that whole thing.
Yeah,
sure. It's.
So I do have one question. Is that so let's say like if I'm like a new screenwriter and I have my script and I think it's not perfect but it's decent, it's good.
Yeah.
How do I get it out there? Like I know because now there's like screenwriting festivals and stuff like that.
Yep.
I've submitted to those
and.
I haven't had any success with them yet.
Okay.
But I do know like with like fees now. So if you're like kind of on a budget, that can be very hard.
Yeah.
There's screenwriting competitions, and you just have to go where they go, right? You understand about the Writers Guild, and you know other writers, have other expert writers review your stuff. Right, a producer like myself, you say, hey, can you take a read? My days are just crazy, but but I'll be more than happy to read, one of your scripts and give you a little bit of background. And
what about
and
for him? I was thinking maybe forums, blogs, Facebook pages, groups, something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to. I'm sure you as Joe said, it's a perfect way to connect, network, and talk to the people that are. I'm sure. Oh, as a matter of fact, my buddy Kevin and I, who is a producer and a sound guy also, they're doing all sorts of movies in the Hudson Valley, right? As a matter of fact, Billions is coming up here in New Paltz or something like that. Yeah, and my wife says,
that's awesome. It's great.
My wife says, are you going up there? I was like, no, why? So that's what they said. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But not taking anything away from but I went to a forum or something, and we actually have stages here. It's called Umbra.
Oh, okay.
Is anybody?
It's over in New Windsor. I think it's
no,
the
it's right off of 84.
Oh, really?
Okay.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's a huge soundstage, and they're
Wow.
growing. Oh my goodness,
wow, that's
they just
awesome.
did the movie, the HBO movie that this guy just did. Hulk. Who's the Hulk?
The Mark Ruffalo. Yeah,
Mark
Ruffalo.
Ruffalo.
Right.
I like Mark Ruffalo, too.
So he
Wow.
just so now we have tax incentives in
Yeah, that's a big one,
okay
right?
that films are coming up here because Mark Ruffalo literally changed the game, because it used to be that you got tax incentives and you were supposed to be like 75 miles away from 59th Street. Okay, and any 75 miles in a circumference, you're able to get like these kind of like the tax credits,
Yeah.
whatever. And so so now they use IBM Poughkeepsie as the center for the Hudson Valley and that whole thing.
No
and
way.
so now
What the hell? That's awesome.
so the movie industry up here is growing.
Yeah. It's
like
growing a lot, huh?
crazy.
Well, they have
Yeah.
they actually have the Hudson Valley Film Festival now. It's like it's a tiny little thing, but
That's
it's growing.
okay. No,
Yeah.
there's a
They've
guy.
done a lot of things up here.
Yeah, HBO has
I don't know
a
if you
film
saw
or
A
show
Quiet
up here.
Place or
They filmed it up here.
they filmed that right in New Paltz. Yeah, they filmed it right in New Paltz. Yeah.
Yeah, they film a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right down the street from my school.
Super Troopers was right on our street here.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
you ever see
Right
Super
outside our
Troopers,
house.
Nestor?
84.
Yeah, you know,
the cops.
Golden
yeah,
Rail.
the cop movie.
Golden Rail.
Yeah, at the
It's
Golden
filmed right at the Golden Rail.
That's
Yeah,
where they had that little bar fight,
Yeah, the intro scene. It was shot
Oh,
right
is that
at the
right?
end of Brewer Road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fishkill. And
Yeah.
Stephen Press, actually, he used to be the director over for Duchess. He was in that film.
Oh, really?
Like, an extra or
Okay.
something, yeah.
Oh, also, did we ever mention the fact that, just as a complete sidebar, that the reason we know Nestor is because he's our neighbor 3 houses up?
I didn't want to
don't know
mention.
if we
I
ever
wanted
mentioned
to.
it.
I wanted to pretend like, oh, he's
Oh.
not my neighbor. He's from
big
know.
dogs.
Oh, he's our
But no,
producer.
he's up the street.
He heard
actually-
about us.
He actually lives a couple of houses down from
Yeah.
me here, and we've been good friends. And he's a great guy, really
Yeah.
fun to
Thanks,
talk
guys.
to,
Yeah.
and
Thanks.
fun
It
to
was fun.
just
Nestor
talk
really
about
great-
things.
really
And he's
great.
also a Giants fan, like we are.
Yeah,
which is
that's
what's most
amazing.
He's also
important.
good,
That's
and as part of his Avant Garde Entertainment, he's actually been involved in 13 different broadcasts for the NFL
Oh,
and
really?
NFL films.
Yes,
That's
So
worked in
he's
NFL,
done, I
yeah.
think, the ones where they film the teams. You know,
sure.
You know, what is that called?
It did. No, it was more like closed caption. We did it in Spanish.
Oh,
okay.
cool.
All right.
And
Okay,
so
cool.
we actually did that in a studio, right?
Oh, wow.
Where we were working with our different sponsors, and I was literally it was like this. I had headphones on,
Yeah.
and I had the guy that was live in Spanish literally right next to me.
Wow.
And so I would have my computer
Yeah.
and giving him all the stats and everything like that, and so
Okay.
and so he's
Oh, my
able
goodness.
to do live
The play-by-play and all
play by
that.
play
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
the color commentating. And all that. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah, yeah.
and so I was
that's
in charge of
incredible.
that. So
That's fast-paced,
So
I can only imagine.
Fast
Yeah.
paced.
Oh my
It was
God.
Oh, here we
crazy.
go.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Must have been
Then
crazy.
and it's like working like with Boomer, like back. that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's
Oh, right, right.
it's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it was wonderful. It's a great
I heard
experience.
that your
That's
project
pretty
now is that you're going to go in post-production and fix the Giant season. Is that
Oh,
true?
they need all the help they can get.
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe we film it right,
Yeah.
and then we kind of like edit it so that we show that they won. Or
Yes,
something
exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
We can edit it so the Saquon Barkley looks like Ezekiel Elliott, but it's just with Barkley on the jersey. That's all.
Yeah.
still-
That would be
yeah,
actually
yeah.
a good idea.
I love him.
So we could probably talk for days.
We
and days
could
on
talk
this
for
stuff,
days.
but we
Okay.
got to end it sometime.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I want
Yeah.
to thank you so much
Nestor,
for coming on the
seriously.
show, and I would
Guys.
love to
It was
have you
awesome.
back again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, on another
you know where I
episode,
live.
We'll follow up.
We do know where you
I
live,
will
believe it
come
or
up and
not,
knock on your door, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and
Yeah.
you can find it on our Facebook, on our YouTube channel,
Yep.
and don't forget to like and
And there's
subscribe.
Avant Garde
Hit that
site.
notification button,
Yeah,
and
check out
and
Avant Garde
Garde
Entertainment.
we will put the link in the description below. So please come back. I hope you enjoyed our show on Tuesday too.
Yeah, so this is probably going to release. So again, like I said, this is going to be Nestor's going to have his own episode. Basically your own. It's all on you, Nestor. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
kidding.
That's okay.
You did a great job. It's
That's
going to be
it.
awesome.
So we
But,
got, check us out on, again, Spotify and Apple Podcast and Google Play and all those places where you can hit us up on.
Yep.
And, again, leave your comments and stuff. We need your comments. We need to get you guys involved out there so we know what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear.
Right.
Send us the questions. And
maybe also comment if you've met any like directors and actors. If you guys have met anybody cool, you have any great stories of your own, you can hit us up at our email. Let us know. We can talk about that stuff. After hearing your stories, it just makes me wish that I
have a lot more. So, I mean,
I'm just going to start hanging out at the Beacon train station and waiting for directors to pop up. I'm just going to say, are you a director? Are you a director?
You'll be on someone's casting couch by the end of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
All right, that's it for today, guys. Enjoy, and we'll see you in the next show.
See you next time, guys.
Peace out.